All right, we're recording in three, two, and one. It's my show. Today, it's my show. All mine. Mine. All mine. All mine. There's no zig. It's all mine. Oh,
Wait,
never
hey,
mind. He is
hey,
here.
I've got a massacre to talk about.
Welcome to episode 175 of Nerdery Murdery.
Big 175. I'm Zig with your murdery today.
And I'm Geoffrey with your Nerdery. Welcome to another week. The highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and the nerd and the murd. This is our regular wife swap. We do it about every 25 episodes, except for episode 10. Where I take over on the nerdery side of the house. Zig takes over on the murdery. We do have Guestery in the house again from Two Geeks and a Microphone. We have the great, the awesome, the spectacular, the splendoriferous Michael Shanks.
Hello, all you geeks out there in Geekdom Land.
So I'm going to give Mike the stage for a minute. I've talked about it once, but let him plug his deal.
Oh, cool. You're going to let me do this, huh? I guess it'll be okay because by the time you guys air this, this will be released.
Yep.
So, I am a new author as of now. And I
Those that
just,
are listening and not seeing, it's Michael Shanks' book, The Immortality Code, which I've read and I love it.
yep, Jeff was one of my beta readers and he was a lot of help too. I appreciate your input in it. And you even get a credit in the book. So,
Oh, yay. It was fun.
The book will be officially released October 15th, which is just a couple weeks from when we are airing this episode. So
Yep. By
I
the
hope
time
I
this
didn't
is
give
out.
any. I hope I didn't give anything away by saying that.
No, by the time this
Yeah.
episode out, it will be out there live. It's available for pre-order now. Our patrons, when they get this, it will be available by the time they get this. But everybody else,
Yes.
it will have been on the shelf, so to speak, for a while.
Right.
Awesome, great deal. I'm happy to give that plug because it was a fun book to read. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm already working on my second.
Awesome.
Nice.
So before we get started, on my Geekdar for today, yes, I stole that. I just stole it just because Mike's on the show today. They
Nice.
they have Geekdar on their show. I had a few things here as I was watching the Cowboys game the other night, which I'll talk about that in here in a minute.
I
Um,
am representing today.
yes.
Whoop, whoop.
There was a commercial I saw, which I got very excited for Alex Cross. And Aldous Hardison from Leverage is playing Alex Cross in a 8 episode series. Comes out November 14th on Prime.
Nice.
All 8 episodes come out on November 14th. I'm very excited for this. I like Aldous Hodge a lot. He's so much
Yeah.
fun. If you haven't
Alice
watched
Hodge is
Leverage, we've
awesome.
talked about it on the show before. Leverage is a great show, and he's a funny character. I love him. I just love his stuff. Um, the next thing I just happened to see just a day or so ago is the producers and directors of Walking Dead have come into agreement. It's been greenlit. They're looking for their writers now. There is going to be a live TV series of Robert McCammon's Swan Song.
Bullshit.
Yep.
Ooh.
The
Oh,
produ
that's dark.
the producers and directors of The Walking Dead are doing it. I'm excited about this. Swan Song is one of the scariest books I've ever read. Robert
Ooh.
McCammon's book was brilliant, and it's about America in post nuclear war. America is
Cool.
devastated, and it's about the survivors and what goes on. A lot of people that have read it um, believe that it took a lot of its cues from The Stand, Stephen
Oh yeah.
King's The Stand.
It's Robert McCammon's version of The Stand.
Yeah,
It's
only
scarier and more horrifying.
yeah, only instead of post pandemic, it's post nuclear holocaust, and it's awesome. So I'm very excited about this. I can't wait for this to come out. Um, the other thing, so many people have told me I need to watch this. So many people have told me they can't believe that I haven't watched it, and our very devout listener Paul finally convinced me to start watching this, and I started watching Only Murders in the Building. It's
Oh, I
brilliant,
love that show.
brilliant.
They said it was us.
He did, and I saw that Steve Martin and Martin Short are very definitely us in that show. It's very funny. Once he said that, I really saw it. Um, but there's currently three full seasons out. Season four is being released weekly right now. Paul said I should do an episode on this for one of our wife swaps. I don't know that I could do it justice. And it's so new. I think there's enough people watching it. But if you haven't watched it, please do. It's so good. Season one, I knew who committed. I knew who the culprit was immediately. I was very quick on that one. I caught it and I stayed with it. Season two, I was pretty sure, and then they did a really good job of throwing me off and making me doubt myself. I ended up hanging on to the end, and I was okay, but I waffled several times. Season three threw me. They
Oh yeah,
threw me. No
no
clue.
idea.
Yeah, I didn't. I just until near the end, I didn't have any clue. They've done such a good job with this. And Mike, I think y'all talked about on your show once that you wish that they would do a podcast about the podcast, or not about the
Yes.
podcast, but the actual podcast. And I think that
Yes.
would be so cool if they would do that.
This is a marketing miss
Yeah,
because you how do you have a show about a podcast and not have a podcast
yeah,
to go with it?
yeah. They
I
should
don't
have.
understand that. They
They
should
sh
have done it.
they should have done the real podcast
Oh,
somewhere out there along with it. I agree. It was a marketing miss because I think it would have been brilliant. The whole thing with it, Zig, have you watched this yet?
I watched a little bit of it.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
I mean, they get together and they're doing a podcast because there was a murder in their building, and they're basically live releasing episodes week to week as they're well, not week to week because it really doesn't last that long, but they're releasing live episodes as they go and as they get further along in the investigation. Um, I think probably my favorite character is the detective,
oh,
The New York police detective. I think she's my favorite character. She's so funny. So
yeah.
many guest stars,
I like
so
the
many.
three main ones. I like Steve Martin, Martin
Oh, and they're
Short.
great.
Yeah, they're
They're
fantastic.
great. There's so many guest stars in this as they go, and
Oh,
especially as you get into season three, it's so many people who have come along for the ride and are doing this show. I can't wait I'm waiting for season four to finish because I binge watched all three seasons in about 2.5 days.
nice.
Because I couldn't stop watching. I ended up staying up to like 1 a.m. I think one morning just because I'm like I got to finish this. I got to finish this. So good. I hope four is not the last. I hope to continue on as long as they're doing good. But it's so good. Thanks to Paul, our listener Paul, for that. And everybody, if you haven't seen it, go out and see it.
I think you're going to be shocked of who the murderer is in the latest season since you haven't started it. I won't tell you, but
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm gonna wait till all episodes are out. So I can.
Brendan and I have been watching it since day one, since it came out,
Yeah,
and
and
we
that's
have
what you
loved
said
it.
on your show. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a fantastic show. It's great.
absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The last thing I had, and with Mike wearing the hat, this has been a painful Cowboy season. Mike and I, with the exception of week one, because he was camping, we've had our weekly talk sessions as we're watching the show, watching the game. It has been painful,
Oh
painful.
gosh,
Week three was a blowout, and the biggest reason it was painful because week one was not expected to be a blowout, and it was, and the Cowboys destroyed the Browns. And then they go up against the Saints, who everybody expected them to beat, and they lost.
no, the Saints is that was the week I was camping.
Was it that week?
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. That's right.
we got to watch the
Yeah,
see or
Cleveland.
yeah, we got to watch the Cleveland game together. I say together.
Yeah.
We communicate back and forth on Facebook while we're watching it. But yeah,
Baltimore was painful only because they were getting blown out. The final score doesn't tell the story of just how badly they were blown out in that game. And then this last game against the Giants, who they should have destroyed, was just painful. So
mm,
painful. I just it's been a hard Cowboys season so far.
The great thing about the Baltimore game was they got to use the onside kick rule, which is,
Yes.
and the funny thing is, I'm also a St. Louis Battlehawks fan, being here from the St. Louis area. And during the Battlehawks' first season, they won an almost impossible game due to that very rule
Wow.
and using the onside kick. So that kind of gave me faith that they were going to win that game, and they came back, and it was so close.
Yeah.
Missed it by that much.
Mm, 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 mm. Well, unfortunately, I think this is going to be a continued painful Cowboy season this year, but
I
we'll see.
Why are you guys surprised? It's been this way for 25 years.
Because they give us hope every year with these 12 season wins,
well, and
12 win seasons
we just signed Dak to probably the highest paid. He's now the highest paid quarterback in the league,
ever.
right? And then we just signed Lamb to a huge deal, and so us Cowboys fans are like, look, they gave you the money, now you need to put out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting, painful season.
I
But
agree.
anyway, Zig, you got anything for us before we kick it off?
No, no. I'm curious. I have notes.
Well, awesome. This is, like I said, this is our wife swap, and we brought Mike back for this, and he very graciously agreed to come back because in our worst of the 80s and best of the 80s, we actually mentioned this that it was going to happen. And so when I'd written up my notes for this, I was like, oh shit, I gotta ping Mike.
Oh, and Brenda said she appreciates not having the invite for this because she has no interest in instrumentals whatsoever. She hates instrumentals.
Well, this is my top 10 list of rock instrumentals. I looked at various sites on what different people recommended and things I knew, and in the end came up with my own list. Um, my own personal rule for this list is I refuse to have two songs from the same artist or band. And all songs have to be about 99.99% to 100% instrumentals. And the reason I put that caveat in there is because I almost had another song in here until I realized just how many words were in this song, and I'll talk about that when we get to it.
Oh,
Um,
I'm curious of what that is.
No, I'm
so
sorry. I'm just looking at the playlist,
mhm.
and two of the videos are hidden. So I want to make sure that everybody got everything.
No,
So,
no worries, no worries.
and I'll
You
fix
got
it
t you
later.
got time on that.
I'll fix it in post.
So with this,
We'll fix that in
we'll fix it
post.
in post. This order is my order from number 10 being the least good or worst of the top 10. Not that any of these are worse, because I think these are all great, all the way down to what my number one's instrumental is of all time for the rock instrumentals. So I'll kick it off. The first one is Fire on High by Electric Light Orchestra. Fire and High, I love this song. It's the opening instrumental track from the 1975 ELO album Face the Music. It was the UK's B-side to their hit single Living Thing that was issued in blue vinyl, which is interesting. And it was later included in an edited form, minus the backwards vocals that we'll talk about here in a second, on the flip side of the US hit single Sweet Talking Woman in 78. Um, classic rock history critic Brian Hadji John, I don't know, rated as ELO's seventh best song, saying that, quote, from the song's creepy opening to the sports-themed glass-sounding mighty guitar riff, it has remained one of the most interesting and exciting Electric Light Orchestra songs in the band's catalog. Something Else's critic Mark Zaleski called it a cool song full of weird orchestration, violently strummed guitar, fusion-esque violin, and even in the full version, a backward masked message. Because in this version, at the beginning, it opens with a back message. And what it sounds like if you're listening to it normal, it sounds like it says madness, madness. Um,
That's funny because me and my brother-in-law, when we used to hear this, our local radio station, KC 95, I've talked about that on our
mhm,
previous episodes. KC is the oldest rock and roll station in America.
mhm.
Um, when KC would play this, and this has in the past been a regular on KC, that portion would come on and we'd go, bullshit, bullshit.
Well, it's ELO's drummers Bevan who is speaking on this part, and this is where it comes into my rule, 99.99% instrumental. What he's saying is the music is reversible, but time is not. Turn back, turn back, turn back, turn back. And this was Jeff Lynne's shot at the backmasking hysteria that was going on, and there were satanic allegations made against songs, and even their song El Dorado, which was by fundamentalist Christianity members. There is also some snippets of the Messiah by Handel that you can hear in the opening as well. This is just a really, really cool song for me. I've loved this for a year. I think it's a very haunting song at the very beginning, and then it just kicks into high gear. I love this song. What do you guys think about this one?
Mike?
So, okay. I looked over the list before I listened to it, and I honestly did not know the name of this song.
The ELO
So I was like,
instrumental?
right. I'm like, do I know this song? And I start playing it. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I think this is worthy to be on the list. So I think number 10 is probably an appropriate placement for this. It's a really good instrumental. And
Hmm.
like you said, it's very haunting. I like that, spooky sound to it, especially, well, at the time of recording, we're getting ready to go into spooky time. So yeah, I enjoy this one. I think this was a good choice.
They,
Um, yeah, I like the song pretty well. It's a good tune. I would like to say that most of the songs in this, and I don't mean to be demeaning, this is all nerd rock music. This is the stuff you play when you're playing D&D.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, yeah, it's like this, and if you wanted something with vocals, you'd also throw in the Sticks and oh, I don't know, Kansas and Supertramp.
So I'm just curious, sitting here with the three of us,
Uh-huh.
two from Nerdery and Murdery, and one from two geeks and a microphone, and you said not to be offensive, but this is nerd
Who was I
rock.
trying to
Who are you?
offend?
Yeah, who are you trying to offend at this point?
It's nerd rock, man. This is
Right.
matter of fact, I would say most of this list is nerd rock.
Well,
Probably.
I didn't play D&D, but I listened to pretty
Hmm.
much
Well, okay,
every.
not necessarily D&D, maybe some of the other role-playing games. This
Sure.
is this and Rush and Supertramp and the Sticks. This is what you play when you play role-playing games or
But I
strategy
can
games.
see all of this being great background music for role
Sure.
playing games.
Oh, sure.
Exactly.
You don't have any lyrics, so you're not,
Yeah.
singing things back, but
Yeah.
you got some
Well,
kind of
you get a
noise
pause at
in
one
the
point to
background.
go, one of these days, I'm gonna cut you into pieces.
You're skipping ahead, dude.
Sorry. I like to
Don't
do the
ruin don't
voice.
ruin the list.
I won't ruin the list. Ruin.
I actually didn't hear this song until the late 90s.
Hmm.
And it was
Really?
only because of Napster.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then it became a favorite of mine, and I've kept it around ever since. I love this. I love this
See,
song.
this
Yeah.
was it was a staple on Casey. This was I don't listen to Casey much today because I listen to what I want to listen to when I want to listen to. Not what corporate America wants me to listen to. But it was a
Damn the
staple.
man. Save the empire.
Well, this song, and there's another instrumental that didn't make my list. It's a favorite of mine, but it just doesn't quite crack this list. That I
Yes.
also got introduced to in Napster, and that was the Eagles' "Journey of the Sorcerer." Um,
Oh yeah.
Great song. It's the
Hitchhiker's
Hitchhiker's Guide
Guide
to
to
the
the Galaxy.
Galaxy. Yeah, it's the
Oh,
Hitchhiker's
nice.
Guide to
Series.
the Galaxy.
Nice.
So, all right. Next song, Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group. This is an instrumental track by Edgar Winter, the Edgar Winter Group on their 72 album. They only come out at night. It was additionally it was released as a single. This actually cracked the top U.S. Billboard top Hot 100 chart for 1 week in May of '73, being replaced by Paul McCartney's My Love. It sold over 1 million copies. It fared equally well in Canada, reaching #1 on their top singles chart. The same month, it peaked at number 18 in the UK, and the following month, it peaked at number 10 in Mexico. It went to 39 in West Germany, remained on the chart for a week, and then it was certified as gold on June 19th, 1973 by the RIAA. Rolling Stone, we know what we think about them, but they did list it as their number 7 in their top 25 best rock instrumentals.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
Sections of the track were edited and sequenced into idents and jingles for Alan Freeman's Top 40 and Saturday Rock Show on UK's BBC One, Radio 1, and BBC Radio 2. Um, Edgar Winter played most of the instruments on the track, including the keyboards, alto sax, and timbales. Um, and as the release's only instrumental cut, the song was not intentionally intended to be on the album, but was included on a whim as a last-minute addition. It was originally released as the B-side to Hanging Around, but the two were soon reversed by the label when disc jockeys nationwide in the US, as well as in Canada, were inundated with phone calls and they realized it was a hit. The song does feature a double drum solo with Ruff on drums and Winter on percussion, and originally the song was titled the Double Drum Song. Um,
I did
this,
not know that.
yeah, this why I really like this song is the really groovy riffs on this song and those driving guitars
Mhm.
throughout this whole song. I just love this song. Again, this is one I've had for years. You can really just jam out to this song. What do you guys think?
Mike.
Again, another staple in KC95. I heard this all the time and absolutely love this song. Actually, I probably would have moved this up a couple notches. I think it deserves to be a little bit higher than number 9, but definitely belongs on this list. It's just a phenomenal instrumental, great guitars on it, and it's just you listen to it and you can't help but just bang your head to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yep.
I think I might be in the minority on this. I think the song is lame.
Really?
Wow.
I think this song is, and it may be because we had a local radio station called Q102 that used the, like the spaceship landing sound as part of
Nice,
their
yeah.
idents for 20 years. Every time I hear the song, it's like, it's cool, and it goes on way too long. This is the reason they invented punk rock, is because of stuff like this. It's because, oh my God, this is so overproduced. Let's just get to the music.
Well,
But I will
here
tell you,
here's
I
what
don't
here
think it's
here
necessarily a bad song. Yeah, I think it's too long.
here's what I'll say about this. Zig is wrong and it's okay.
I agree with that one.
So, it's okay for him to be wrong. He makes me listen to punk stuff all the time, and he's wrong for that. So, whatever.
You're welcome.
Matter of fact, we have an episode coming up that I've listened to his playlist for, and I'll have many comments to say about that.
Okay.
It was hardcore punk rock and go-go from the DC area.
That's a previous episode.
Is it?
We've done that one. Yeah, we've done that one.
We've already done that? Oh, well, okay. Well,
Uh-huh.
I know we recorded it.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
that's right. Okay.
it's
Which one
it's
do you?
it's another route. It's another list coming up of three albums you need to listen to,
Oh,
and I've
yeah.
listened
Okay.
to it. I've
Oh,
listened
you've
to it.
already listened to it?
Hmm.
Yeah. You
Hmm.
like that? That's good stuff.
I will save my comments for the podcast.
Uh,
Yay.
is this
All right.
murdery or murder?
Or two geeks on a microphone, right? So the next song on my list is Hocus Pocus by Focus. This is a song by the Dutch rock band Focus. It's written by keyboardist, flutist, and vocalist Thys van Leer and guitarist Jan Ackerman. Recorded and released in 71 as the open track of their second studio album, Moving Waves. There's an edited version that was released as a single on a B-side on the labels Imperial, Polydor, and Blue Horizon in Europe of 71, but they failed to chart outside the Netherlands. It was given new life when it became the musical signature of the Nike Right the Future advertising campaign during the 2010 FIFA World Cup.
Oh
And
wow.
that year, the single re-entered the UK charts at number 57 and on the Dutch charts at number 48. So in this song, Hocus Pocus, it takes the form of a rondo, which consists of an alternation between a powerful rock chord riff and a short drum solo, and then various verses, all performed, which include yodeling, organ playing, accordion, scat singing, flute riffs, and whistling. There's really no music in here, or no
So the
words in here.
yodeling didn't break your rule
No,
on.
no, because it
Mouth music.
wasn't actually singing.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
mouth music.
When they perform this live, they generally perform this even faster. Um,
Ooh,
Wow.
so so that's when they came out with Hocus Pocus 2, which is a slightly faster version of the song with some funk elements and rhythm added. It got released as a single in its own right in Europe and was the B-side on the North American release of Hocus Pocus. For you kids out there, we've said this before. The B-side was back when we had vinyl records and cassette tapes, and the B-side was the flip side of the record or cassette.
Right.
Generally, the B-side was a secondary recording that typically received less
Nice.
attention or airplay, but some B-sides have been very successful, such as,
how
uh,
soon is now?
well, Queen, the A side was We Will Rock You. The B side was We Are the Champions. I'm sorry, the B side was We Will Rock You. The A side was We Are the Champions. Um,
I'll give you
the
another example of that. So Kiss's A side was Detroit Rock City,
mhm,
and the B side was Beth,
yep,
and
That was
DJs
a
all
B-side?
yes,
Beth was a B side, and the DJs all flipped it over and played the B side instead of Detroit Rock City.
yep,
That's
yep,
how Beth became in 1977 or 78 became
hmm.
the number one hit in America.
That's a great fucking song. Oh, I love
Uh,
it.
the
Yeah, but I still
Can't
like
be for
Detroit Rock City
yeah.
better.
oh, I love Detroit Rock
It's like
City.
a double A side.
The Beatles' Revolution was the B side for Hey Jude. The Smiths' How Soon Is Now was the B side for William. It was really nothing. And Fleetwood Mac's Silver Spring was the B side for Go Your Own Way. So those are just a few where the B side outdid the A side. I could not get Hocus Pocus 2 on YouTube or on Spotify, but it is on YouTube, so you can check it there. It's a very, very cool and groovy version. You should definitely check out Hocus Pocus 2. Um, this song has been used by many TV shows. Top Gear used it. My Name is Earl, Supernatural, On World, and the Trolls and movies Trolls World Tour. Um, this song makes me think of what it's like to slip in and out of insanity. I can't help but think of this song when I think about that. And I think we've talked about this before, but I don't know. If you ever want a visual of what it's like to go into insanity, with the exception of the scene in Twin Peaks, which I know we've talked about, Millennium Season 2, Episode 23, called The Time Is Now, and you can get it on YouTube, you can see it, is visually phenomenal to watch somebody going insane and what they see and how their world changes. It's
Yeah,
insanity.
to the
But
tune of Patti Smith's Horses, which is
yes,
basically going insane.
yes, yes, yes. Like I said, we talked about this scene in Twin Peaks that I talked about way back in episode 3. If you want to go listen to that, we'll pause real quick. And we're back. So you can go listen to that. But that's what Hocus Pocus makes me think of. It just kind of makes me think of what it's like to go insane. And I think this is a great song. It's a fun song. So,
And it just got added to the YouTube page.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
What do you
I'm going
guys
to
think?
do that as we go.
What do you guys think about Hocus Pocus?
I don't think it's rock and roll. I think it's freeform jazz.
Hmm.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it
Hmm.
sounds like freeform jazz to me. And I love freeform jazz, so I love this.
Okay.
I, you know, I think that's fair. I think
Maybe.
it's fair. I mean, I still think it's rock and roll, but I think that's a fair criticism of it. This is another one. You had a few on here that I was like, I don't know this song, and then when I listened to it, I went,
Oh, I
oh
know
wait,
this.
I
Yes.
know this.
Yes.
This is that weird song. This wasn't played near as much as Frankenstein or ELO, but it was played on K Sheet because that's how I knew it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I wouldn't know it. And I find it funny that you said that this was on Supernatural
Hmm.
because my daughter is a fan of that TV series. And yesterday I was listening to the list, and the two of us were working on some gravestones that we're going to use for our Halloween camping trip. And while we're working on it, this song comes on, and Megan looks at me and she goes, "Are they yodeling?"
Yep.
I said, "Yeah,
Yes.
they're yodeling." She goes, "This is weird. This is a weird song." So it blows my mind that that was on Supernatural, and she didn't recognize it because I
Yep.
would think that she would have recognized that from that TV series. But
Well, and it might have only been one episode because I know the
it's
episode of
possible.
My Name is Earl that it was on.
Okay, all right.
So it might have just been one episode. Zig, what do you think about Hocus Pocus besides you think it's jazz?
But I think it's a great piece of freeform jazz. I mean, I'd put it right up there with Coltrane. I
All
put
right.
this in a playlist with Coltrane and just chill out.
Well, then I'll go on to my next song. And before I actually give the song, I just have to ask real quick, exactly how many drugs do you have to take to be kicked out of the Allman Brothers Band? Exactly how many drugs?
Fucking
Because it's
drugs.
happened.
Yes, it has.
The next song is Jessica by the Allman Brothers Band. Uh, it's a great song. It's
Well,
an
hey,
instrumental. Go ahead.
Metallica fired Dave Mustaine for being a bigger drunk than the rest of them. So I
Yeah,
mean,
They fired him because
similar,
he was an asshole.
similar,
yeah.
They
similar.
fired him because he was an asshole.
Well, and he was an asshole because he was a bigger drunk than they
Right.
were.
Well, this song is an instrumental piece by the Allman Brothers Band. It was released in December of '73, and it was the second single of their fourth album, Brothers and Sisters. Um, it was issued as a single following their immensely successful Rambling Man, and it didn't receive the same level of chart success, but it became a standard in rotations for classic. Man, I'm wanting to say clack every time. Classic rock stations in
Classic
the
rock.
yes.
I can't rock.
Reviews have been widely positive about it. Most critics at the time called it a highlight of the album. 2006 Wall Street Journal article deemed it truly a national heirloom. The signature melody line is played harmonically along with the various instruments. In this particular case, Betts is playing melody on guitar, Chuck Leavell playing top harmony on the Fender, and Greg Allman playing bottom harmony on the Hammond organ. Leavell also plays grand piano on this tune for over a minute around the 2:30 mark. It did peak on Billboard's easy listening chart, which is interesting, where it peaked at number 29 on March 9th, 1974. It never rose higher than number 65 on the Hot 100. Um, this is also one that has been on TV. It was used in for the opening theme of Top Gear. Um, this is just a cool song from start to finish. Anybody who's a classic rock fan knows this song. They know it. Even if they don't know it by name, they've heard this song.
Oh yeah.
So, what do you guys think about Jessica?
Miguel.
Oh, I like that you called me Miguel. That's cool.
We were debating. Miguel is made it for Michael, right?
Yes, yes.
I don't,
In
I
fact,
don't, I
my
don't think that's right.
nephew. No, it
You
is
keep
right.
missing that word.
I know for a fact it's right because my nephew, who is part Hispanic, his middle name is Miguel, and he's named after me. So, anyway, um, this was another one. I didn't know it by name. I had no idea, and I listened to it, and I go, "Oh, okay, all right, I know this one." I don't think I would have put it as far down on the list. I would have moved it back a little bit, but I think it's appropriate for the list. It is a good classic rock track. Not my favorite instrumental, but it is fun.
Oh, it's not mine. It's mid-list on me, so it's not my favorite.
Right. Sure.
We're speeding along towards my favorite.
Right. Yeah.
Careening that direction. Oh, you mentioned Top
Uh,
Gear.
the next song on the list is Call of Cthulhu by Metallica, which is
It's
interesting. That's the actual pronunciation. It's
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu and not
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
It's the eighth and final track from Metallica's second album, Ride the Lightning.
Roll percentiles.
For those of you that don't know, in any role-playing game, if you call the name Cthulhu, not Cthulhu, but Cthulhu, you have to roll dice. And if you hit a certain number, Cthulhu comes and
Double
basically
zero.
destroys everything.
Nice.
We were playing a Shadowrun new campaign that we just started, and we were working on this. It was like a mystery,
We were
and
frustrated, is
oh
what
my
we
god!
were.
And our buddy Keith said, "Man, fuck this." Cthulhu, 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 Cthulhu. And he counted up like 15 and
You had
named
to
it. And
roll
our
for
buddy Don just,
every single one, and then Cthulhu showed up.
and he goes,
Oh wow.
"Uh-oh."
Yeah, pretty much ended that campaign. It was done.
Wow.
It's
Yeah, that
done.
was fun.
So do you know why Metallica spells it with a K instead of a CH?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's the way you're
Um,
supposed to pronounce it. They actually wrote it out the way it's
No,
supposed to be
that's
pronounced.
not why. That has nothing to do with it.
Oh.
no, no. Uh, the they did Cthulhu because of what we just talked about. They instead of Cthulhu, they did Cthulhu because they believed if you pronounced it, if you said the name too many times, Cthulhu would show up.
That, see, that's not what I heard.
And
That's not what I
that's
heard.
what I read.
I heard that they were afraid of copyright infringement,
Hmm.
Oh.
and they changed the spelling so they didn't get sued because they were afraid they were going to get sued for it.
By
Because they sue
by
people for copyright.
Right, but
sued by the
right.
Lovecraft people.
I have no idea who they thought they were. I'm sure Cthulhu is in public domain and
I would think
probably
so.
was in public domain when they wrote this song. Not to mention it's a different genre. So I think there's rules, with
Yeah,
different genres and such that you can use things like this. But they didn't know copyright laws and rules, so they were concerned with that, and they changed the spelling of it. That's the way I
that's
heard.
interesting. That's interesting.
I thought that was
Well,
pretty interesting.
it it's the longest song on that album. Very lengthy instrumental. It's the last Metallica song that had any contribution from guitarist Dave Mustaine, who was kicked out before the band recorded their first album. Like the album, the demo closes with this song, which was then named When Hell Freezes Over.
Nice.
It's often played much faster live than the finished version. The song is named after Lovecraft's well-known story, The Call of Cthulhu, as we had talked about. Um, it did in they had various people have had various suggestions throughout time as this song has gone along why they did it. I don't know that any one version. I don't know that the band has ever officially said why they renamed it, what they renamed it, Cthulhu versus Cthulhu. Um, there's one theory out there that they just wanted people to pronounce it correctly, so they
That's
renamed
why I
it to
thought they
that.
did it. Yeah, Cthulhu.
This is a cool song. It starts out very quiet and mellow and then just kicks it into high gear. This song is awesome and should be in
Yes.
anybody's playlist. It is a great, great song. What do y'all think about this one?
Mike?
First of all, I love Metallica. I've been a Metallica fan for years. Although after Jason left, those first few albums they did without Jason, I hated. And then this past November, my wife and I went and seen Metallica live in concert for the 72 Seasons tour here in St. Louis. And we got free tickets from one of my daughter's best friends who
Nice.
they were doing this deal where they had two shows. So they had a show on Friday and they had a show on Sunday. So when you bought the tickets, you got tickets to Friday show and Sunday show. Well, they couldn't go to the Sunday show, so they called Megan up and said, "Hey, you want to go see Metallica?" And Megan's like, "I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I can't stay up that late." And she goes, "Well, mom and dad might go." And she comes in. I was watching the Cowboys game with Jeff. And I was like, Jeff, I got to go. We're going to see Metallica, dude.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we left, went and see Metallica. And the funny thing is they opened the show with oh gosh, the song that they use for Clint Eastwood's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. They open it with that
Oh,
instrumental, and then they go
wow,
into
wow, wow.
Oh
right,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's the way they open all their shows. Okay,
Oh, cool.
so it starts with that, and then
Ru-
it goes into Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Oh
Russia
wow.
always opens with Three Blind Mice.
Yes, yes, you're right. And I've seen Rush twice. But they're playing this, and my wife looks at me and goes, "I hate instrumentals." And I started laughing. I go, "You do realize you just came to see Metallica, right? I mean, they're known for extended solos. So you're going to get a lot of this tonight."
Yep.
It was funny, but I absolutely love this song. This is, you know, Ride the Lightning is one that I play a lot. So yeah, I listen to this quite a bit.
I I like Ride the Lightning. I like Kill 'Em All. I don't think Metallica's been cool since then.
I disagree with that, but
They've been more dad rock since,
oh
Kill
my god.
since
I
Injustice.
don't agree
Okay,
with
so you
that.
got Injustice for All is, and past that, it's all dad rock.
I don't know.
See, I love the Black Album. The Black Album's what really
I'm not saying it's
turned me
bad.
on to Metallica,
I
and then
just
I
I
went
wouldn't
back.
call them cool.
Well, I disagree with that.
Yeah, me
Come on,
too.
Enter Sandman, Of Wolf
Yeah.
and Man.
Yeah.
Come on, there's some great tracks on the Black Album. Now, okay, the couple albums after Load and Reload, I like, but they're not my favorite Metallica albums, but I enjoyed them. S&M, I absolutely love. I listen to that quite a bit. That's the Metallica and Symphony, which
What was
is
that one? Something
incredible.
Magnetica? Something?
I hate Death Magnetic. Ugh.
Yes, Magnetic.
That Death Magnetic, Saint Anger, and I think there's one more with oh gosh, I can't think of the Robert. I have
Robert.
no idea what
Oh,
it is.
Robert. Yeah, because he was from a punk band. He's from
Yeah.
the.
Well,
Oh my
technically,
God,
so was Jason. Jason was from Flotsam,
Flotsam and
Flotsam.
Jetsam.
Yeah, Flotsam and Jetsam. But anyway, it wasn't until I went and seen them for 72 seasons, and they played some tracks off the new album, and I went, ooh, I
Suicidal
like
tendencies.
this. And I turned around and I downloaded that right after we left the show, and I'm like, so 72 seasons is went into regular play, regular rotation for me. I love it.
Robert Trujillo
Yeah,
from,
Trujillo. That's it.
yeah, from it took, my brain had to go look
And
through
they
that
do a
file.
fun thing that I didn't know they do. So Robert and Kirk every night for every show they do, they write a that day they write an instrumental for the city they're in.
Hmm.
And I had no idea they did this, and it's so much fun. It's like, okay, here's your guys' song. This is your song. So
Wow.
so if you go see Metallica today, you'll get to hear your city's own song.
Your own city song.
That's pretty
Right.
cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Mm.
All right, the next song in our list is Miserlou by Dick Dale. This was originally a folk song
Yep.
from Eastern Med region. The original author is unknown, but our Arabic, Greek, and Jewish musicians been playing it since the 1920s. The earliest known recording of the song is a 1927 Greek composition. There are also Arabic belly dancing, Albanian, Armenian, Serbian, Persian, Indian, and Turkish versions of the song. It was a hit in 46 by, it's either Jan or Jan August, who is an American pianist and xylophonist, who nicknamed the one-man piano duet. It gained worldwide popularity through Dick Dale's 1962 American surf rock version, which was originally titled Miserlou, which popularized the song in Western popular culture. Various versions since have been recorded, mostly based on Dick Dale's version, including other surf and rock versions by the Beach Boys, the Ventures, and the Trashmen, as well as international orchestra easy listening versions by musicians such as Martin Denny and Arthur Lyman. His surf rock version was first heard in 1994 in Pulp Fiction. This is where I was introduced to this song, and this is the version we're talking about, is the Pulp Fiction version of this. Um, it's
Hey, yeah, but
the
to say it was first heard in 1994? No, the song was around before that.
no, I said the surf rock version was first heard for that movie. That's when they brought it out in the version I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yes.
with you now.
Yes. How this version came about, in 62 he was going to rearrange it as a solo instrumental piece, and during a performance he was bet by a young fan that he couldn't play a song on only one string on the guitar, and he cranked out this one. Um, so it was really in Pulp Fiction where it really got introduced to a wider audience. There were people that knew it, but this was where it was really, really introduced. In 2005, it was placed on number 89 in the list of 100 greatest guitar tracks. Um, and like I said, Pulp Fiction was the introduction of this song for me. Quentin Tarantino is a genius for putting music to film. He takes some songs that haven't been heard in decades, and he'll put it to music in his movies, and it's just brilliant the way he does it. This song was perfect for the opening title for Pulp Fiction. I loved it. I loved it to this day. Um, just just really it is, I think it's such a great song. It had to come in this list because it is a phenomenal song. So that's why this one's on my list. How about y'all?
Okay.
Nick?
Never watched Pulp Fiction. Never seen the movie. Um,
Ouch. Ouch. Ow. That hurts. Zig and I saw that in the theaters.
wow. Nope. I never saw it.
In the
We used to
theaters.
get yeah, we used to go get drunk and go over to his house and watch it at night.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's funny. But I think I remember hearing this in ads for the movie and such. I think I've heard this in other movies too.
Yeah, oh yeah. What's Dick
Because
Dale? People love Dick Dale.
right. So and again, this is one I had no idea by the title what the heck this song was. And then as soon as it comes on, I went, "Oh, okay. All right. I know this song." And it's a good song. I like it. I don't like it as much as some of the others on this list, but it's fun. It is a
So,
fun song.
so understand, let's just go back to Pulp Fiction for a minute. If you're going to watch a Quentin Tarantino movie, this needs to be the one.
That's the one.
Yes, this needs to be the one. He's got some really good ones. I mean, there's others that are really, really, really good. But you've got to watch this one. This one relaunched, number one, it relaunched John Travolta's career.
Right.
Um, and the storyline is great. The storyline is told out of sync. It goes back and forth throughout the storyline. Um, and the end that goes back and recaps something at the beginning. It's told again, and it's slightly different the second time it's told, which is
Like
very
it's from somebody
interesting.
else's perspective.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting how you get there. Bruce Willis is in it, Ving Rhames is in it, Uma Thurman is in it.
Sam
Um,
Jackson,
Sam Jackson is in
Right.
it. I mean, there's so many good. Quentin Tarantino is in it. Quentin Tarantino's
Frank
part is one of
Wiley,
my favorite parts.
Frank
Um,
Whaley.
yes, yes. Um, the music for Pulp Fiction is absolutely brilliant all the way through from start to finish, and the story itself is so good. It's one definitely to see. Give yourself the opportunity at some point watch Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
You know, the year Pulp Fiction came out, I've talked about this before in the podcast. 1994, the 1994 Oscars was Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, Quiz Show, Four Weddings and a Funeral, and Forrest Gump. Any of those could have won.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Any of those could have
um,
won.
I've only watched Forrest Gump and Quiz Show.
You've never watched
You've never seen
Shawshank
Shawshank
Redemption?
Never
Redemption?
seen Shawshank Redemption.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
When that
So
came out, I just had no interest in it
so
whatsoever.
let me say this about Shawshank Redemption. It is without a doubt, easily on any list you look at, it will be one of the top five greatest movies ever made.
And I've never watched it.
You
oh,
should
you should check
definitely
it out.
watch Shawshank Redemption. It is phenomenal. It's amazing that it's a Stephen King story, number one. A lot of people don't even realize that it's a Stephen King story. And I read the book before because it's one of his short stories in is it in Four
It's
Seasons?
been 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's in Four Seasons. Um,
And the actual
Absolutely brilliant.
story is
Rita Hayworth in The
Rita
Shawshank
Hayworth in the
Redemption.
Shawshank
Hmm.
Redemption. I always want to say Betty Grable, but it's not.
Yep,
It's Rita Hayworth.
Rita Hayworth. Um, Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Morgan Freeman, Tim Robbins. Um, uh,
Morgan Freeman does voiceovers through the whole
yeah,
freaking film.
yeah,
It's all told from his perspective.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Um, a- any of those movies I named, like I said, that was to me one of the greatest years for the movies ever, and to have those five. Forrest Gump won because of the scene where he sees his son for the first time. That's why Forrest Gump won. That's why he won for it. When he sees it and he's like,
Is
is
he
he
smart or is he
smart or
like
is
me?
he doesn't say that. He goes, is he smart or is he, and he just pats
He
himself
pats himself.
and he's so emotional. That scene won him the Oscar without a doubt. And it was such a tug at your heartstrings movie. It's why Forrest Gump won. Personally, I think Pulp Fiction should have won.
Hmm.
I think Shawshank
Honestly,
was just a hair under it.
Forrest Gump was baby boomer masturbation. Let's not mince words about it. I'm not saying it's not a good movie, but it's baby boomer masturbation.
Look, I'm Gen X, man, and I love Forrest Gump. I
I
really
do
think
too.
it's
I
Again,
like Forrest
don't.
Gump a lot.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but it is. It's like The Big Chill.
and I'm a proud Gen Xer, by the way.
Samesies.
But so going back, like I said, for the music alone for Pulp Fiction, I would go and watch it because it's
Oh yeah.
probably his masterpiece as far as putting music that a whole lot of people didn't know. I mean, there were some big hits in there that were just kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
Um,
It was an ode to forgotten music.
Yeah, Son of a Preacher Man. That's
Hmm.
one that not a
Jungle
whole lot of
Boogie.
people knew. Jungle Boogie, another one. It's just the way he puts it to movies is so brilliant. So anyway, moving on. My next song on the list is "Surfing with the Alien," Joe Satriani. This
Yeah.
is the second studio album by Joe Satriani, released on October 15th, 1987. It's one of his most successful to date and helped establish him as a respected rock guitarist. The album was recorded on a budget of ding 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 $13,000.
Wow.
The whole album?
The whole album.
Wow.
His equipment was limited by the budget, which consisted of two Kramer Pacer guitars, an adapted Stratocaster guitar for which he would change the pickups to get the different sounds. His guitar effects included a Roland JC 120, a Marshall 68 half stack, and a Rockman, which we're going to talk about Rockman here in a while.
Oh
So
yeah.
we'll get there. Um, Surfing from the Alien is the title track from the album of the same name, and it refers to the comic book character, the Silver Surfer.
Yes.
It's considered the 30th greatest rock guitars or guitar solo ever by readers of Guitar World magazine. It's included as downloadable content in the Guitar Virtuoso track pack for the 2007 video game Guitar Hero 3. He plugged a wah-wah pedal and a tube driver into his 100-watt Marshall, and he decided to use an Event Ride 949. They eventually recorded the song and solo in about a half hour. Um, what what hurt them, their Eventide broke down and they couldn't recreate the original effect, so they decided to leave the original version and make another one. Um, this song comes in at number 4 on my list, but I could have easily swapped 3 and 4. This was a toss up for me.
Oh,
This was a toss up for me where these two, this is where these two fit for me, but I could have swapped them. The next song we'll talk about just edges this out to me. It's a great song. I love this song. This song opens up, it grabs you by the throat and forces you on a ride. It rocks from start to finish. I
This
listen
is
to
a
this song
song.
all the
This is
time.
a song for music nerds.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a
This is a
music
great song.
nerd song. This is almost like, okay, today we're going to talk about the 1812 overture. And this is the reason they do this is because of this. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad song, but it is a music nerd song. So before you listen to it, have that going into it because it's about how he ran the effects pedals through the Marshall half stack and through the personally I would have run it through a Leslie, but again, I'm kind of a music nerd.
If I would have been able to put 2 songs from one artist in the list, I would have added Summer Song into here too.
Oh,
Both
the
summer.
both of them.
Satriani's.
Yep, both of
Yeah.
them. But Surfing with the Alien is easily his best.
There's a third Joe Satriani song I would have added. I agree with you on Summer Song. I love Summer Song, but first of all, you can't go wrong with that entire album. Okay. But then my next favorite Satch album is Professor Satchafunkalicus,
Mm,
or
hmm
however the heck you pronounce that.
hmm
And I love uh,
Funkalicious.
Funkalicious, something like that. I love I Want to Rock, or I Want to Rock, or I Want to Learn to Rock, or something like that. But it might break your rule, Jeff, of lyrics because he does have lyrics in it. Granted, it's I Want to Rock.
hmm
It's almost all the lyrics in it, but it's all through the song.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and it
it's a
does.
fantastic
And
song.
because like I said, we're coming up to the point of a song I originally considered, but it had too many lyrics in it.
Okay. All right.
So
Cool.
we're coming up to that. So I think we all agree on Surfing with the Alien. I
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
love this song.
fun
This,
fact, uh the album cover no longer features the alien on it. It does
really?
not. It doesn't have the alien, the it doesn't have the Marvel surfing alien.
Yeah.
All it's got is the headstock of the guitar and then the
Hmm.
As a
colors
silver
behind it.
surfboard. Yeah, matter of fact,
Right.
Our YouTube list, that's the way it's listed there. There's no
Right.
silver
And the
surfer on
reason
it.
for that is because Joe refuses to pay Marvel the money to
Makes
use
sense.
that. Yeah.
Makes
Well, I
sense.
mean, he
Marvel.
made he made the whole album for $13,000. I bet the rights to use the thing are more than what he made the
Oh,
album
oh
for.
yeah.
I
Oh
get
yeah.
it.
And
Yeah.
they upped the rights a few years back.
I
And he
bet they
just said,
did.
"No, I'm not paying that.
Nah, screw that.
Yeah, it
So
makes
I'll
sense.
take your character off my album then."
Yeah.
Which to me is, I mean, I get it. I totally
Oh
get it.
yeah.
But it's a bummer because it's such an awesome album
It's
cover.
it's a
It's
beautiful album cover.
one of the best.
Ooh, I
This,
bet the album with the Silver Surfer on it has spiked in
I'll bet it
the
has.
secondary market too.
I'll bet it has. I'll bet it has.
this is another one of those songs that is in my playlist that I take out on the golf course with me.
Nice.
And Chelsea was like, "What is this?" I said, "This is Joe Satriani.
Yo,
Are you kidding
Satriani.
me?" She said,
It's
"It's."
Satch.
She
Come
said it. She
on.
said it's hairband. This is not hairband.
No,
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 no, no, no,
no, no.
no, no.
This is classical rock music,
Yeah,
not classic rock music.
Agreed.
yeah,
Classical
yeah.
rock music.
And you do know that Satch was Steve Vai, which is another one of my favorites, and you
Yeah.
didn't include Steve Vai on this list.
Nope.
Hurts me. It
But
hurts me.
but Steve Vai was considered. I considered Steve Vai. I also
Oh my
consider. I
God,
mean,
the song in Crossroads where he played both parts of it. With
mhm.
Ralph
Yeah.
Macchio's when you look down at the hands, it's actually Steve Vai. That's not.
There are some that I thought about for this list, but it just didn't crack my list. Steve Vai hits in there. Stevie Ray Vaughan was another one I
Oh
heavily
yeah.
considered.
SRV, baby.
Um, I heavily considered, and I debated this one for a while, but I left this one out simply because it's not his. But even though it was brilliant, is Jimi Hendrix, Star Spangled Banner. thought about that one, and I didn't include it in the list. So I consider there were a lot of people out there that said Moby Dick from Led Zeppelin belonged in here. That's a good song. It's a really good song, and it is Led Zeppelin. It's great. I just didn't see it as fitting into this list. So I mean, when you got a top 10, some are going to not make it.
Well,
Led Zeppelin's not nearly nerdy enough to be in this list.
Vi was actually Satch's student. So
yes, Steve Vai studied under Joe Satriani.
Yes, he did.
The Satch.
Well, we all agreed on this one.
Yes.
The third
you
most
had to
popular
have a
in my
Joe
list.
Satriani in this list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Number 3 in my list is going to be Eruption from Van Halen.
Should be number 1.
This is a guitar solo performed by Eddie Van Halen, second track in their 1978 self-titled album. Widely considered one of the greatest guitar solos of all time, which I would not disagree with that, but that's one of the reasons it's not number 1 on this list. I'll get there.
Okay.
So it existed as part of their stage act back as far as 75, when it featured no tapping. One-handed tapping was very standard guitar technique. Eruption introduced the two-handed tapping to the mainstream and became a popular solo option throughout the 80s. It segues into the cover of The Kinks' You Really Got Me, and the two songs are usually played together by radio stations and in concert, which it should be. It drives me insane when it's not, and it's just like doing In Excess, Need You Tonight, that is not immediately followed by
Mediate.
Thank you. It drives me crazy because those two songs are meant to be together. You should play them together. That's how they're supposed to be.
Like Queen, We Will Rock You.
Yes.
And We Are the
Yes.
Champions.
You play those together.
You play them together.
Alan Parsons' project, Sirius, should be immediately followed with I was just listening to the song yesterday. Alan Parsons has one as well. It's just when songs like that are meant to be played together, they should play them together on the radio. For In Excess, I know for a fact, First Wave on satellite radio always plays Need You Tonight followed by Mediate, always. Gotcha. But if you go over to the 80s station on XM radio, it does not. Drives me insane. This is one of them.
Asylum's cartoon and Sometime to Return should always be played together.
Yes. So the song later was the B-side on Running with the Devil. It starts off with with Alex Van Halen on drums and then Michael Anthony on bass. It was played on a Frankenstat with an MXR Phase 90, an Echoplex, and a Univox Echo unit, and a 1968 Marshall 1959 Super Lead tube amp. In the Sunset Sound Studio, the reverb room was also used to add reverb, and the Frankenstat was tuned down half a step. Initially, it wasn't considered a track for their album, and it was just a guitar solo that Eddie performed live in the clubs. But Ted Templeman overheard it in the studio as Eddie was rehearsing for a club date at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and so they decided to include it on the album. Eddie Van Halen said later, I didn't even play it right. There's a mistake at the top end of it. To this day, whenever I hear it, I always think, man, I could have played it better. Like I said, I could have swapped 3 and 4 here. Eruption just edges out Surfing with the Alien and takes place as number 3. Is this the greatest guitar solo ever? Yes. Greatest instrumental ever? No. I don't think so. I think there's better instrumentals. This is, I think, the greatest guitar solo ever, though. I think this song kicks ass from start to finish. It's Eddie Van Halen at his very best, and I think he put everything he had into this song.
I agree that it's probably Eddie Van Halen at his best, that it is an incredible instrumental. It is not even close to the best guitar solo ever, because the greatest guitar solo ever makes a lame song sound better. And I will explain that. So you've got a lame song called Hold the Line. It does not get cool until Steve Lukather takes off on a guitar. And I'm relatively certain he levitated off. Levitated off the ground when he did it.
Sorry, I accidentally muted Zig there for a minute.
Oh, I see that.
No, I'm
Yeah,
hoping that was the ghost of Eddie Van Halen coming to get him.
he would agree with me. Steve Lukather took a lame song and made it awesome. I don't know why everybody's again. I'm not saying it's a bad piece of music. I'm not. I think it's a very good piece of music. I don't know why everybody's so freaky about this song.
Because it's amazing.
Yes.
It's good.
It's amazing, is what it is. It is absolutely amazing.
Okay,
I
okay
think it's.
Zig.
I think it's a lot of hype.
Zig,
But again, I'm not saying it's bad.
Zig, you had your say and you're wrong, but that's okay. You're right. You have a right to be wrong. Number one, Eddie Van Halen is the greatest guitarist of our time. Eddie Van Halen, yes, Eddie Van
No.
Halen. Without Eddie Van Halen, we don't have half of the stuff we have from 80s on. I'm sorry. Because almost everyone,
Yeah, I would say that half of
almost
that stuff is bad.
no. Well, you're wrong, but again, you have a right to be wrong, but you're wrong. Uh, Eddie Van Halen influenced so many people, and he is just
He did.
he is the epitome of guitar rock. He
I
is
would say that Bob Stinson is a better guitar player than
who?
Bob Stinson.
I don't know who Bob
I
Stinson
don't
is.
think I know who Bob Stinson is.
He's the
Right.
lead guitarist for the Replacements.
And people who don't even know guitar know who Eddie Van Halen is. Sorry.
It's very true.
Yeah, hey, Milli Vanilli sold 10 million records. Does that make him good?
Well,
Whatever.
Let me put it this way. If Bob Dylan only sold 100 records, would he still be Bob Dylan?
Unfortunately, I hate Bob Dylan, so
yeah.
All right, okay. If Van Halen only
weird.
sold 100 records, would they still be Van Halen? Just because people don't know him doesn't mean that they're not incredible. Bob Stinson could play anything. That's why he was incredible.
Okay.
Problem was he drank too much.
So, okay, another reason this song stands out in my head, and it has to do with Keishi. Everything seems to come back to Keishi when it comes to music, especially for me and, growing up.
One more thing. I'm not saying this is a bad song. I'm not saying the song doesn't belong on this list.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Just some of the stuff you said was just wrong, flat out wrong. Sorry. But anyway, so Keishi 95 had a segment on Tuesday nights that they called Monday Night Metal.
Okay.
Originally, Monday Night Metal was on Monday nights,
And they moved it to Tuesday.
but they had to move it because they got Rockline, which Rockline was a national syndicate show.
Why didn't they just change the name?
Because you don't get it. Because it's more fun to say Monday Night Metal than Tuesday Night Metal. And not to mention, it turns heads when you go, yeah, last night I listened to Monday Night Metal. Wait a minute. It was Tuesday, though. So it was a marketing thing, and it worked. It was
brilliantly.
Yes, it did. It did. The opening to Monday Night Metal with the DJ name, or who went by the name Radical Rich, he started off with Eruption every episode. And every episode you hear Radical Rich, you'd hear Eddie's opening. Yeah. And you'd hear wimp dogs, wussies, nerds, geeks, run home to your mamas. It's time for Monday Night Metal. Play it, Eddie.
Nice.
It was a fantastic opener to a great radio show. And that is part of the reason this song stands out in my mind today, because of that opening of that show. It's just awesome.
I would have Eruption in my golf course list if Chelsea wouldn't complain every time it played.
Because the instrumentals.
Does she
Because
like
it's
any
hair
music
metal. She doesn't like hair metal.
Does she like any music you put on the list?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's some I have on there. She's like, I'm tired of this song. And I'm like, yeah, but I gotta have some of my music in here too. So
Chelsea's a fan of indie music.
mostly, yeah, she really is. So with Eruption, we all agreed it belongs in the list except for Ziggy, who's wrong.
No, I didn't say it didn't belong in the list.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying I do not think this is the greatest guitar solo ever.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's close.
That would be where you're wrong. But
that was where you were wrong. There we go. Now I hit it. The next song in this list, and I always knew that this was going to be the placement for Pink Floyd. Um, but I had a debate, and it came out
12 words.
as one of these days. Um, this one of these days is the opening track to their '71 album Metal. It's an instrumental, except for the spoken line from drummer Nick Mason. One of these days, I'm going to cut you into little pieces. That's a
12
one
words.
line, yeah, in the whole thing. So that's where I went to the whole 99%. Um,
Oh, that's where that came from, huh?
it because this had to go in the list. This had
One
to,
of these days,
and it was
I'm
gonna
gonna
break, and
cut
it
you
was gonna
into
break
little
it.
pieces.
Um, and this is where we're going to talk about the other one that could have come in here, but I was just like, no, there's too many because there's like actual four verses in this other song. Um, so the song features double track bass guitars by David Gilmour and Roger Waters, with each bass hard pan to one channel of stereo, but one bass sound is quite muted and dull. And according to David Gilmour, this is because that particular instrument had old strings on it, and the roadie they had sent to get new strings for it wandered off to see his girlfriend instead. The predominant element of this,
Musicians.
yeah, I know, right? The predominant element of this song is that of a guitar played through a delay, which was a Benson Echarect unit, set to produce repeats in quarter triplet notes. And the result of this is quarter note, eighth note, quarter note, eighth note, all throughout the whole song. They use this same they use this same repeat for sheep, the same style, pattern of music.
And they ran it through a Leslie, spinning real
Yeah,
fast.
yeah.
Ooh.
The keyboard on the track are composed of a Hammond organ, which forms the fade in, and then there's a stab from a second Hammond organ with a percussion stop, and then overdubbed with an acoustic piano fed through a Leslie speaker, which was also used on echoes. Echoes we're going to talk about here in just a minute. For live versions, the fade in part was played on a Farfisa organ.
Professor.
The lyric, "One of these days I'm going to cut you," is from Nick Mason, who you very rarely heard on any albums. And it was recorded through a ring modulator slowed down to create an eerie effect. And it was aimed at Sir Jimmy Young, who was then BBC Radio 1 and Radio 2 DJ, who was supposedly disliked because he babbled on before and after songs. So during the early '70s, they
Wouldn't that
sometimes,
be every DJ?
yeah, but apparently he was pretty bad about it.
Oh,
And so what this came from is they were talking about the collage of clips that would end up on Young's radio show floor, thus figuratively cutting him into little pieces.
gotcha. Interesting.
The song also does have a little piece from Doctor Who in the
Yes,
middle
it
of it.
does.
Yes.
Woo.
Yep. That's in the middle of the song.
It cuts.
Um, so for this
I
song,
never caught that.
oh yeah, listen to it again. You'll catch it. It's there.
Okay.
It's very much there.
Echoes has whale farts.
It does. It does. I knew Pink Floyd was going to take this spot. I knew it was. And I really had to choose between One of These Days and Great Gig in the Sky as my two that I was going to go with. Echoes was close, but it had a few too many words in it. There's only two short verses in the first 5 minutes, and then a couple of verses in the last 5 minutes of this almost 25-minute piece.
It's the B side of a record.
Yeah, it's the entire B side of a record. And it just had to, if it didn't have so many words, I probably would have launched Echoes into the spot instead.
Ah, they're so pretty
It's
though.
because Echoes is
Overhead, the
beautiful.
albatross hangs motionless upon the waves, and deep beneath the rolling greens and labyrinth and southern caves, the echoes of the. I have to sing it. Sorry.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Echoes is a beautiful piece, but unfortunately it had too many
Yeah.
words in it, and I had to throw it out. Um, Speaking of, because I'm gonna put a link to this in the show, back before everything was on the internet,
Uh-huh.
we would start up a copy of 2001: A Space Odyssey and get ready with
Uh-huh.
this song.
Uh-huh.
Skip to the part of the movie that goes towards the end where the screen goes black and then you get the words that pop up, Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite. And as soon as you see that, you start Echoes and turn off the sound of the movie. It
Yep.
is amazing. And there is a YouTube link that does it for you.
Uh-huh.
Just watched it the other day. Watch
Huh.
it. Watch it. It's
Now I've
incredible what
In
it
the
does.
90s, we would partake in inebriative substances. Turn the lights down. Check that shit out.
It enhances the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
goes
Like shooting a bullet and throwing it,
the
baby.
entire song goes all the way through to the credits. Takes you all. It's matched up perfectly. You can do the same thing with Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon.
Mhm.
See, that's the one I knew about.
Yep, the
I
Dark
knew
Side of Oz.
yeah.
Very few people know about this one, and this is better. This is better. Way, 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 way better.
2001 and Echoes Odyssey.
Yeah, so
Well,
I,
probably because the movie 2001 sucks. That's probably why less people know
it's
about
it's
that.
it's hardcore sci-fi.
Oh, hey now, we're talking about my opinions.
I'm sorry.
2001?
Yes, that movie
Two,
sucks. I hate
2001 is hardcore sci-fi, and it's hard to watch it without understanding what the point was behind it.
there was a
I
point.
there
Yes.
was.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I'll take your
It's
word
full
for it.
of
it's
stars.
it's a very interesting movie for what it was supposed to be. But like I said, do yourself a favor at least. If you like Pink Floyd, watch this because the visuals that go along with this for the music is just is incredible. Whether or not Pink Floyd wrote this specifically for 2001: Space Odyssey, they're not admitting to it, and
Nope.
nobody knows for sure, but it's pretty cool.
It does fit in the timeline,
It
though.
does. It does. So anywho, I go back. I could have put either of those first two in the list, but I didn't want any band or artist to have two of the multiples. I listened to One of These Days back to back with Gig in the Sky, and Great Gig in the Sky is a great piece. And there's a lot of people that think that's one of their most superior of their songs. But One of These Days, I think, is brilliant from start to finish. You start off with the wind rustling sounds that open up into the bass guitar riff that dominates the song until Roger Waters comes in with his guitar and then slowly takes over the piece and then kicks everything into high gear, and then there's just a beautiful end component. We get the great Richard Wright in there, the great late Richard Wright. Um, Watch the video of One of These Days from Pulse on YouTube and just the light show they have with it, and towards the end when everything just really kicks in and the pigs come out from their hiding places on the stage. It's ah,
Saw that
this
show
song is great.
in the rain.
Yeah,
That
Oh
was
wow.
awesome.
this song is great. I knew Pink Floyd was going to take my second spot in the list, and One of These Days just came out on top. So Mike does not agree.
um, it's a good song.
Great
I
Gig in the
just
Sky can be jarring. It's the vocals. It's almost like she's too hard on the note. Like she's there. She's perfectly in pitch. Sometimes it can be a little, I don't want to say irritating on the ear because that's not the word, but I understand why you went with One of These Days instead of Great Gig in the Sky. I'm sorry, Mike. Please go ahead.
oh, it's all right. It's your show, dude.
You're
um,
the guest.
it's okay. I'm not the biggest Pink Floyd fan. My favorite Pink Floyds are going to be naturally The Wall. You know, I think most people love The Wall, and then Dark Side of the Moon. I love that one too. Um, and then I am a fan of the live Pulse. I used to have that. That was a album I listened to a lot. So this one's just not one that I would listen to all the time. I think it's good. I like it, but I wouldn't put it up as high as you did. But
Um, this is one I listen to frequently. Whether in the car, out on the golf course, whatever.
does
This
Chelsea like this one?
yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
All right.
Because it's got a
So
lyric.
no, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's just this is a great song. Um, I I've seen that video from Pulse so many times, and it's wonderful. Pink Floyd is one of those groups that is really cool because I can either listen to their music and really jam out, or I can just kind of sit back and go, yeah,
Yeah.
and just relax. Um, I remember many years ago at a company I worked at, uh, early internet days. So just to tell you the early time of that, I had my music lists going, and we were just listening to some music at work one day, and there was a Pink Floyd song that came on, and it was "Have a Cigar." "Have a Cigar" came on, and I'm sitting there in the middle of our little help desk there at the time, and everybody's listening to the music, and they're like, "Hey, that's pretty cool." And I said, "Yeah, makes me want to go smoke dope though."
Jeez.
Just because sometimes that's just the mentality you get in some Pink Floyds, because it's just one of those that just puts you in a mood. Um, those were well past my days, but it's just that kind of mood you can sometimes get in with Pink Floyd, and it's just like, yeah.
I just
So
thought of something. So I'm wearing my
twice a
twice in a
lifetime.
lifetime shirt for the eclipse. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So we drove to Chester, Illinois to see the eclipse this last time. And we got right around 3 minutes of totality, which was pretty darn cool. But then you've got the build up before totality. And as soon as it starts to get dark, I started playing Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. And then once totality hit, then I'm playing Ozzy
Eclipse.
Osbourne
Oh, okay.
Bark at the Moon. But some guy comes up to me as I'm playing Pink Floyd, and he goes, "Please tell me you're not playing Eclipse of the Heart." I said, "Hell no." I mean, I like that song, don't get me wrong, but no.
Well,
I'm like, no,
Dark
you got to play Dark Side of the Moon. Come on.
Dark Side of the Moon is a great album with one exception. One exception and one
Money.
exception only. Money.
Money.
Money was overplayed.
I
Money
love
was overplayed.
Money. Money's a great
Money is
song.
one of those that I
Yeah. It's not a
can't
bad song. It just
I
got played too much.
it got played way too much, and I can't listen to it anymore because it was so overplayed. The rest of that album, brilliant. Money to me is out of place on that album.
Oh my God.
That's
Again, that same radio station that did the Edgar Winters song, the promo,
okay.
Q102, played Pink Floyd's Money
Yeah.
at least once an hour.
Yeah, it was too
And
much.
they were really good about playing stuff for, a 20-year span, just all over the place. But for some reason, every hour on the hour, they had to play freaking Money. And
So
it ruined us down here.
I'm at a bar with a friend, and he's going to put money in the jukebox, and he goes, "What do you want to hear?" And I said, "Oh, put on some Pink Floyd for me." And he goes, "Okay, well, what do you want to hear?" And I said, "Um, anything but Money, to be honest." And so he goes to the jukebox, and he puts in his money, and he kicks up some songs, and we're playing pool for a little while, and then Money comes on, and I went, "Are you fucking kidding me? I said play anything but Money." He goes, "I looked, and there was nothing on the album that said anything but Money, so I thought maybe you wanted Money." So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything but Money. I didn't see
Yeah.
that song, but I did see one called Money.
Yeah.
So
So
That's
anyway.
hilarious.
still
Oh
funny.
my gosh.
All right, we're divided a little bit on that one. Last one in my list, sort of last one. YYZ by Rush. Natively pronounced YYZ in Canada.
Yes.
It was on
Oh yeah,
Rush's
don't you know?
it was on Rush's 1981 album Moving Pictures.
Don't forget
Uh,
your toque.
their live album Exit Stage Left in 81, and the concert video showing recording of A Show of Hands in 1989. YYZ is the airport identification code of Toronto Pearson International Airport near Rush's hometown. They
Mhm.
were introduced to the rhythm as Alex Lifeson flew them to the airport. And there was a VHF omnidirectional range system at the airport, which broadcast the YYZ identifier code in Morse code. Pert later said in interviews that the rhythm just stuck with them. And they said that both Pert and Geddy Lee have both said it's always a happy day when YYZ appears on our luggage tags.
Nice.
The song's introduction, played in time signature of 3/4, repeatedly renders YYZ in Morse code using various musical arrangements. The official animated music video was released on YouTube on March 11th, 2022, to coincide with the 40th anniversary of Moving Pictures. The video does contain elements from the parent album cover and shows a heist in Toronto. And it has various Easter eggs referencing Rush's other works, such as a fast food chain named Fried by Night, based on their album Fly by Night. Um, if I could have broken my own rule of no two songs from the same artist, I might have also added La Villa Strangiato to this
Oh,
list as
Lovely
well,
wow.
Strangiato.
which is also a brilliant instrumental. Um, Rush is incredible. They're absolutely incredible. If you have not sampled any of their work, you are missing out on some of the greatest guitar riffs and drums you will ever hear. They are easily one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. I think if you listen to YYZ, you'll see why this was unquestionably my number one rock instrumental of all time. There was zero question as I was starting to go through the list and starting to research these various ones. This is the only one that I knew from the beginning was going to be my number one on the list. This is
Wow.
a brilliant piece of music. Rush is brilliant, and that's my number one. There
Wow.
you have it. Y'all's thoughts on this song?
Rush is amazing. One of my favorite bands. Um, Quite possibly the three greatest musicians to ever live. Um, I cannot gush more about Rush. That wasn't planned. In fact,
Nice though.
thank you. In fact, my daughter spent a month in Canada last December. So when we went out and seen y'all and went to the Cowboys game, my daughter was in Canada, and I kept telling her, okay, when you fly into Toronto, when you fly into YYZ, you have to be playing YYZ.
Yep.
So she did. She's like, all right, Dad, I did it. And um, I've I have had Rush's beer. I've had one of Rush's beers. No, I haven't had any Rush's beers. I've had one of Iron Maiden's beers, and I've always wanted to try Rush's beers, but I can't get it here in the States, or at least I can't find it down
Hmm.
here in the Midwest anywhere. So I kept telling her, I'm like, if there's any way you can get me a Rush beer, bring it back, you know. Well,
Please commit an international smuggling.
right, she didn't think she could do it. So, but she did order one of the Rush beers, and she brought me back the bottle. So I do have a Rush beer bottle. Now, with
Nice.
Awesome.
that said, I love Rush. I don't think this is number one, but it is at the top of the list. I mean, yeah, you, man, again, three greatest musicians possibly ever to live. So, yeah.
Zig.
I would have went with La Villa Strangiato, but I mean,
And like I said,
it's 1A, 1B.
it,
But
it it was there was consideration. There was a consideration because I think both are really really good. Just YYZ to me is I think it's the better of the two, and I didn't want to put two from the same group in here.
2112.
2112 is great too.
yeah,
I don't
2112.
think
You
you
know
could
what?
go wrong with a
I'll change
lot of
my answer.
Rush
I want
songs.
2112.
I love
We need to
21.
Just
do
get
a
out there and
Rush
listen.
show.
Just get out there and listen to Rush.
Oh my God. Be cool or
Well,
be cast out, baby. And this is nerd rock.
well,
Yeah.
my two go-to albums is 2112 and Moving Pictures, and then probably Grace Under Pressure after that. And then
Oh,
I also,
really?
yeah, I
Okay.
don't know why I really
Did you
like,
like it? Yeah.
yeah, it's a good album. And then I love Power Windows.
Power Windows.
I listen to Power Windows a lot. And the weird thing is, I like Presto, and that's like one of their least favorite out. You know,
Yeah,
that's,
a lot of people hate Presto, but
yeah, they
that's a
hate on
that's a
Presto,
good
but
album.
I think it's a good album. I
Agreed.
enjoy it.
Hold Your
Agreed.
Fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
hold
lot
your
of people
fire.
hate on that one. It's like, why?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
get it, but yeah, yeah, Moving Pictures 2112, um, Power Windows, and Presto. Those are and then Grace Under Fire. Those are
Yeah.
my five top Rush albums.
So we've talked years ago about years ago. We've talked in other episodes how years ago, when I had a Commodore 64, I used to go to these cracker parties, and where we would
Cracker parties.
everybody would bring blank discs, and we had people that were able to crack the write protect on video games and make copies, and so everybody could get copies of stuff, and we called them cracker parties.
Oh, okay.
Um, well, one of the discs, and we would just trade them back. I mean, I would literally come out of there with a shoebox full of five and a quarter discs, full of those discs to take home and get to play all these games. Well, on one of the discs, there was just a whole bunch of interesting utilities and different kind of things. But there was this one that was a music program, and it had some demo stuff in there. And the very first track on the demo was Tom Sawyer, done on a Commodore 64 in that in their code, and it was
Oh,
really really
with
cool.
with
It
that
had
tune chip.
it had this light show going on to the music, and I mean, it was just the instrumental piece for Tom Sawyer, but it was wild. It was really really cool. It's really really cool. That was years
Cool.
ago on the commie.
Nice.
Good. So we all agree on that one. I am going to cheat. I have one additional piece of music. And the reason I say I'm cheating is this song was never officially on an album. It was played live at some concerts, including some that I went to. Um, but years ago, there used to be this show from a Dallas-based DJ named Doug Redbeard Hill, and it was called Studio in the Studio with Redbeard. Still on to this day, by the way. It's a weekly hour-long rockumentary.
And they called
Um,
him Redbeard because he has a ZZ Top beard. He
yes,
really does.
yes. And he would interview different people from different bands, different, or he would talk about different albums. He would interview musicians from the albums. It started in 1988 in Dallas, and it eventually grew to 60 rock stations, and eventually over 180, where it continues to this day. The Redbeard Show. Anyway, one day back in the 90s, if I'm recalling correctly, I'm listening to the latest episode of the Redbeard Show, and it featured Tom Schultz of Boston. The link to the piece I'm going to talk about will be on our website, and this is called the Hyperspace Pedal Blues. Tom Schultz starts off by playing his guitar through a Rockman, which is an amplifier that he patented. I said we would get back to this Rockman. It was him. Tom Schultz was an MIT trained engineer. If I remember right, he has three master's degrees and at least one doctorate, maybe more. I don't remember. He's got a lot. He's got a lot. Um, and the most of the stuff he did was all designed and built in his own studio, and he has a whole bunch of patents. The Rockman is one of those, and the actual Boston quote unquote tone was the result of him just these endless experimentations he would do with guitar amplifiers, microphones, equalizers, other gear that they would throw in. That he would modify equipment, and he was using it to help other guitarists along their journey to help things that they might find useful in their music. The Rockman was one of those, and it was very, very heavily used throughout Boston's music. If you listen to any old Boston, you've heard a Rockman. Um, so he then moved from the Rockman and then started using one of his non-patent inventions called the hyperspace pedal. And if you watch this interview, he says in the interview he didn't sell the pedal because it would be too dangerous in the hands of the general public. And so then he begins playing the hyperspace pedal blues, and this is an incredible piece of music. And if you listen to it, turn your volume up as high as you can get and listen to the full effect of what this is. I have seen them 5 times in concert. They played the Hyperspace Pedal Blues twice in the times I was there, and listening to it in a stadium or in an arena. This song is amazing, and it's just such phenomenal guitar. So I had to add this in the list. It doesn't really fit in the list, but I've got the link to this for everybody to check it out because Tom Schultz was another one that was just brilliant. So did y'all get a chance to listen to Hyperspace Metal Blues?
No, I
Okay.
that wasn't. I don't think. I don't remember you having
I
it on
thought
your.
I sent you
Now
that
in
link.
the YouTube playlist.
Oh,
Yeah,
maybe you
It is
did.
now in the YouTube playlist.
Okay.
There's an audio file of
check
it,
it
so it's
out
now
because
in.
the interview itself is pretty funny as he's going through it and talking through it. At one point he's playing, he's like, "Uh-oh, I think I just shredded your monitor," you know. He's just, I mean, he's just jamming out, and he has never, to this day, he has never released this. It's one of the inventions he has that he refuses to release to the public.
Wow.
It's pretty cool. So that's my
Well,
list.
well, if I could, I'd like to add two things to your list.
Okay.
What's that?
I know this is your list,
No,
and I
no
think
worries.
you put it
I'm
together
adding them to the
very well.
YouTube playlist as we go because I got
Okay.
two as well.
So my two would be number one was the one I had said, Steve Vai, and that would be The Audience is Listening.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, incredible song, even better video. The video is almost feels like Van Halen's Hot for Teacher video,
Hmm.
because Van Halen's Hot for Teacher video has the look-alike kids that
Right.
look like Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen, David Lee Roth, and Michael Anthony. Well, for Steve Vai, it almost feels like he copied that, and he's got kids that look like him and his band, and they're all like middle schoolers. They're in class, and the teacher says, "Oh, little Stevie Vai wants to come up and play a number that he wrote on his guitar. Oh yeah, bring up your four friends and they can play with you." And so the kid comes up there and he goes, "Okay, it's gonna get loud," and then it just goes into The Audience is Listening, which is just this incredible uh, instrumental that it's, in my opinion, Steve Vai's best, the best thing he's ever done.
It's a great
And
song.
it is.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
I would
it is
add
now on
that.
the YouTube playlist. I'm adding
Okay,
them as we're
excellent.
talking.
Okay, and then the last one that I would add, and this probably may not be known by you guys, but me being a huge Kiss fan and me being a big Ace Frehley fan, because Ace is my favorite member of Kiss, on Ace's 78 solo album, the last track on the solo album is an instrumental called Fractured Mirror. That is the one that introduced me to instrumentals and got me to love instrumentals. And it's just a fantastic song.
I'll have to check
He
that
has,
out because I'm thinking I've heard it, but maybe
Yeah,
not.
I had
if
that
you've
record as a
listened to the
kid.
78 solo album, you've heard it.
Hmm.
And he opens almost all his shows. Well, he doesn't play it anymore. He has it played, but it is the opener to every one of his solo shows.
Interesting.
Fractured Mirror.
Okay.
And he's done three other versions of it. There's Fractured Mirror, Fractured 2, Fractured 3, and Fractured Quantum. And all of them are good, but none of them tops the original. The original is the best, hands down. So Fractured Mirror should be on this list too.
All right. Zig, what were the two you'd add in? If you say
Uh,
anything punk, I'm just going to reach through the
no,
screen
no,
and punch you
it's
in the
Rumble
mouth.
by Link Ray, who
Okay.
is another surf rock guy,
Oh yeah,
and
you had mentioned that one, and,
yeah,
I listened to that one, and it was not bad, not bad, but
and Jungle Jazz by Kool and the Gang, which is a instrumental version of Jungle Boogie.
of Jungle Boogie, and I like Jungle Boogie. I like Jungle Boogie a lot. Um, I really didn't consider any songs that somebody just instrumentalized versus over their words ones because you kind of had that a lot
'70s.
in the 60s and 70s
Yeah.
where you would have a track. I mean, this is a stupid example because you're going to hate this song, but Grease had this exact same thing. On the 45 for Grease, the flip side, the B side, was an instrumental only version of it.
Yes.
You had
Oh,
that a
okay.
lot in the 70s. A lot. A lot, a lot, a lot. So, um, it just goes back to the fact that Zig is wrong. And whatever.
It's
Uh,
just my ears are just bigger. That's all it is. My
they're
ears are just
bigger.
bigger. They hear more.
But that was my piece for the nerdery side for our wife swap. I wanted to share that. I knew I wanted to do that one for a while.
Nice.
And so I put it together, and hopefully everybody goes out there and listens to it, see what they think about it. And do send me any comments you have on this. It's been really cool. I've been getting some good feedback from listeners as of late. Even a new one. I wanted to give him a shout out if he's still listening at this point in the show. Brian is a relatively new listener as well. I love the feedback. They've been giving me some suggestions for murder stories,
Nice.
that I can cover, some that I hadn't heard. I'm like, yeah, I need to cover that because I've now read it. So some really cool stuff. So send me any comments. Let me know what you thought of it. Any that you think I should have added on to the list. But the YouTube playlist will be out there. But definitely go and give these a listen. So
Oh, I
awesome.
do have a comment to a listener that you said had a comment from the last time I was on, and
Go
and
ahead.
and the band put out an appropriate T-shirt for this. Unfortunately, I never bought this T-shirt, but because I do have a lot of their other T-shirts. But they put out a T-shirt that says, "Yes, I love Striper. Get over it."
So this is in a comment. So this goes back once again to my friend Paul, who is one of our avid listeners. He listens every week without fail. He said he's a big podcast listener. He talks to me about it frequently. And ours is one of those. Y'all's show is one of those. Mike, he does listen to
Oh,
y'all's show
thank
as
you.
Whoop,
well.
whoop.
So he is a listener. But as Mike and I were watching the game, my Paul was pinging me off the side on some other stuff, and he said, "What is it? What was it?" He said, listening to Striper was
Striper is
like.
like drinking non-alcoholic beer. Yeah,
So I immediately let Mike
Ouch.
know about that and
and I
told
don't
Paul.
like not I don't like non-alcoholic beer, by the way.
But we do like our listener Paul, no matter what. So
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Keep listening.
so awesome. Paul gets two drops in this episode. That'll be
Whoop, whoop.
enjoyable for him. He
But I
he
had to say something. I had to say something. Yes, I love Striper. Gonna go see them on November 4th. So
I'm
can't
sorry.
wait for their 40th anniversary tour.
awesome. So awesome. Thanks for sitting through that with me. So it's that time of the day. Zig, why don't you step over to the murdery side of the house? Oh, wait, let me say
Murder.
it. Oh, damn it.
Wait, no, go ahead.
No, it's ruined now.
No, go ahead.
Fine. Murder.
Oh, nice. Can we pause?
Yeah, hang on a sec. Let's pause for our studio audience. It's been a while. And they can all go to the bathroom and we'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, so we had to take a bio break for some of you that were out there. Didn't realize how long we had gone in my nerdery, which of course everybody is going to say was the best nerdery. So, so there you go.
Everybody?
Sure.
Sure.
All my adoring fans out there. All my adoring fans. All right, Zig, so why don't you take us into a murder?
Okay, we're actually going to talk about a massacre. So lots of
Okay.
murders. I got my information from the Zen Educational Project, the New York Times, and the Tulsa Historical Society. Today, we're going to talk about the Tulsa Massacre of 1921, also known as the Massacre of Black Wall Street.
This has gotten some big airplay over the last few years,
Yes.
because it's not, excuse me, excuse me, it's not talked about. There's a lot of people that are very upset that it hasn't been included in history books.
Mm-hmm.
That there's not a whole lot out there about it. So you're starting to see more and more people talk about. So I've been very aware of this one for a while.
Yeah.
But you're hearing more and more people talk about it. There's several podcasts out there that have covered this,
Mm-hmm.
because I think everybody agrees this one is very important to get the word out on
Oh,
this
yeah.
one. I have a couple coming up, very similar, that they're not as heavily talked about and should be talked about.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing this one. I've kind of thought about this one for a while, and I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to take it over from you, but I've thought about this one for a while. I'm glad you're doing it. I have some others coming up just like this that need to be discussed more. So. Please
Yeah,
go
well,
ahead.
I'd like to start by giving a big shout out to Charlie, Ronnie, and Robert Wilson, along with other members of the band, the Gap Band. Uh, they're named after the massacre.
Hmm.
Greenwood, Archer, and Pine are the three streets that were Black Wall Street. That's why the Gap Band from the 70s and 80s was always capital G, capital A, capital P, because it's for Greenwood, Archer, and Pine.
Huh.
Um, so yeah, big shout out to those guys. I think Charlie's the only one that's still with us. Um,
So you got a
so
little nerdery in your murdery.
I
Hmm.
guess
Hmm. Yep.
I always do. I'm uncomfortable with doing these, so that's why I try
He
to go with
he is, and so some of you may have noticed because uh, let me take us back in time.
peace.
When Zig did his first murder, it
Wait,
was
wait.
episode
Doodle-doo, doodle-doo.
it was episode 10, and he covered the Setagaiwa murders. Um, did I pronounce that
Oh,
right? Setagaiwa?
yeah.
Setagaiwa? Yeah. Um, and Zig did a very, very good job of covering it. That was a murder I'd actually had on my list, and I didn't do because he did it. But yeah, Zig is not as comfortable doing this as I
Oh,
am
not.
because I'm very dark and I have something twisted inside of me. Uh, I
I
I
would just say you're
actually
more analytical, sir.
we I was having dinner Friday night, and we met this new couple at our golf club that have been here for a while, and they're from Dallas Fort Worth. They were actually from Richardson, and they're
Oh,
down here.
wow.
So
Okay.
so we got to meet them, we got to talking to them and whatnot, and somehow, somewhere, the subject came up of true crime, and boy, it was for me, it was like, ding. Hey, I've got this
Oh,
podcast and blah 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 blah
let
blah blah. And I
me
get to
talk
talk.
about these grisly murders.
And as I'm talking to the lady of this couple, the wife, she's like, you've got to cover this sometime." And I went, "Yep, done it." "Oh, well, you've got to do this." "Yep, done it."
Got it.
And all the ones she kept naming, I'm like, "Yeah, I've covered these on my
You've
show."
done it.
And her husband was just sitting there watching us talk about it, and you could see the look in his eyes. The look in his eyes looking at me was, "Damn, this dude is dark."
Ah,
And and
Man,
and
homie, a little fucked up.
Well, and like I said, my fascination with it is the psychology behind it. The psychology behind a serial killer is immensely fascinating to me.
Oh, yeah.
Just disappearances and things like that. I'm very comfortable talking about this because I'm willing to put in the research and let's put a fine point on it. I'm ready to spend a lot of my free time reading about some very dark shit, because it fascinates me. Not because I want to be a murderer, not because I want to be a serial killer, because I'm sure I'm on somebody's radar by now. All
I hope you clear your cache frequently.
the things that I research on my computer, because I don't remember if it was Mike or somebody else that I was telling. But I was like, you know what? If I were to guess without even walking into my computer, into my office and look at my computer right now, I'm going to guarantee there's at least 6 tabs open on my computer of a different murder.
This was the conversation we had when we were watching the football game
That's it.
Thursday night.
That's it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it is, and it's sitting there because I look up so many different ones, and I'm on so many subscriptions of different ones because the stuff just fascinates me, on some of these people. And there's some of these stories that I tell because the story needs to come out.
Needs to
The
be told.
story needs to be told, because there are victims behind this, and sometimes the victims don't get the airplay they deserve for the terrible things that happen to them. And sometimes the perpetrator gets all the airplay, gets all the news, and gets the highlight. And we really need to be able to highlight the victims, on these. And so, like I said, so long story short, the way I took the long path to get here, Zig gets very uncomfortable with this because he's not as comfortable with
Yeah.
murders as I am. But he does a very good job, and I appreciate that he indulges me in doing this wife swap every
Well,
25
you need to get
episodes.
some nerdery out to get your head out of the dark places. And my niche has been I started with murders and I was like, maybe I should do massacres because Jeffrey's not really doing massacres. That way we won't overlap.
Yeah. Oh,
And
don't get me wrong. I have to get out of that dark place from time to time. I
of
mean,
course you do.
there is a reason that I have gone through Chuck and Eureka, um, time and time and time again. Matter of fact, I'm doing Chuck again right now
Bicky Bill,
because I just need
Bicky
some light. I
Bill,
just need
Bicky
some
Bill,
light in my
Bicky
life.
Bicky Bill.
I was watching The Blacklist for a while and I got through season 3 and I was like, I got to get away from the dark for a little bit. So carry on.
Thanks, sir. So today we're talking about the Tulsa massacres of 1921. There were many African Americans who went to Oklahoma during the Native American removal. When these tribes came to Oklahoma, Africans held enslaved or living among them as tribal members, notably in the case of the Seminoles, were forced to move with them. This proved problematic as rules concerning the freedom of African Americans differed between tribes. Others later traveled to Oklahoma for the land rushes in 1889 through 1891 and continued in the years leading to 1907, the year Oklahoma became a state. Hoping that a majority of Black population could build a firewall against further extension of the system of racial degradation and segregation known as Jim Crow. Oklahoma represented the hope of change and provided a chance for African Americans to not only leave the lands of slavery, but oppose the harsh racism of their previous homes. They traveled to Oklahoma by wagons, horses, trains, and even on foot. Many of the settlers were relatives of the Native Americans who had traveled on foot with the 5 civilized tribes along the Trail of Tears. Others were then descendants of people who had fled to Indian territory. Many Black residents were also from the various Muskogee-speaking peoples, such as Creeks and Seminoles, while some had been adopted by the tribes after the Emancipation Proclamation. So basically, how it played out was after the Emancipation Proclamation or before, Oklahoma was Indian territory, so it was not governed by the U.S. government. Um, so a lot of the slaves, particularly from here in Texas, that was the it was quicker to get there than it was, especially if they were in the north, than it was to get to Mexico, and it was sure a hell of a lot quicker than getting to Canada. So they could get in there and they'd be safe because they didn't allow slave hunters up there. Uh, the only people who went up there were federal marshals, and they weren't looking for escaped slaves. They were looking for criminals. Hence, Bass Elder. Bass Elder was one of these people. Um, the white residents of Tulsa refer to the area north of the Frisco Railroad tracks as Little Africa, Great Park Development, formerly known as New Hall Ranch. The success of Black-owned businesses there led Booker T. Washington to visit in 1905 and encourage residents to continue to build and cooperate amongst themselves, reinforcing what he called industrial capacity, and thus securing their ownership and independence. Washington highlighted that he had directed the creation of a 4,000-acre, totally Black-owned district on the edge of Tuskegee under the supervision of C.W. Green to model Washington's vision. It was named Greenwood and formally organized in 1901. The Tulsa community was formally organized the year after Washington's visit in 1906 with the name Greenwood. By 1921, it was home to about 10,000 Black residents. Greenwood Avenue in Tulsa was important because it ran north for over a mile from the Frisco Railroad yards. It was one of the few streets that did not cross through both. So it was basically a nice straight street, which was fairly uncommon in the early 20th century. Black and white neighborhoods, Greenwood was home to thriving Black commercial districts, whose many red brick buildings belonged to Black Americans and housed thriving businesses, including grocery stores, banks, libraries, and much more. One of the most affluent African American communities in the country, leading to the nickname Black Wall Street. Imagine a community of great possibilities and prosperity built by Black people for Black people. Places to work, places to live, places to learn and shop and play, places to worship. Now imagining it being ravaged by flames. In May 1921, the Tulsa, Oklahoma neighborhood of Greenwood was fully realized, antidote to the racial oppression of the time, built in the early part of the century in a northern pocket of the city. It was a thriving community of commerce and family life to its roughly 10,000 residents. It is also one of the most violent episodes of dispossession in U.S. history. It began on May 31st, 1921 in Greenwood, the thriving black neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma. From May 31st through June 1st, deputized whites killed more than 300 African Americans. They looted and burned to the ground 40 square blocks. 40 square blocks
Wow.
of 1,265 African American homes, including hospitals, schools, and churches, and destroyed 150 businesses. White deputies and members of the National Guard arrested and detained 6,000 black Tulsans who were released only upon being vouched for by a white employer or other white citizens. 9,000 African Americans were left homeless and lived in tents well into the winter of 1921. This assault was met by a brave but unsuccessful armed defense of their community by some Black World War I
Shoot,
veterans
I
and
was on.
others.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I don't want to dispute the fact. You said 9,000. I've heard more 10,000 were left
Yeah,
homeless. Is that
yeah. I'm actually getting this is from Tulsa,
okay?
the Tulsa Historical Society. So you may be correct. It may be more
I
than
mean,
10,000.
I'm not trying to split hairs.
No,
9,000,
no, no,
ten
no.
thousand, but
9,000 to
it's
10,000. Well, and just a few years ago, they found a mass grave when they were building a bridge over a river. They found a mass grave of like 500 people that didn't even know were part of the massacre. They threw them in a ditch and covered them over.
mm-mm.
Wow.
On the morning of May 30th, 1921, a young black man named Dick Rowland was riding in the elevator in the Drexel building at 3rd and Main with a white woman named Sarah Page. The details of what followed vary from person to person. Accounts of an incident circulated among the city's white community during the day and became more exaggerated with each telling. Tulsa police arrested Rowland the following day and began an investigation. An inflammatory report in the May 31st edition of the Tulsa Tribune spurred a confrontation between black and white armed mobs around the courthouse, where the sheriff and his men had barricaded the top floor to protect Rowland. Shots were fired, and the outnumbered African Americans began retreating to the Greenwood district. In the early morning hours of June 1st, 1921, Greenwood was looted and burned by white rioters. Governor Robertson declared martial law, and National Guard troops arrived in Tulsa. Guardsmen assisted firemen in putting out fires, took African Americans out of the hands of vigilantes, and imprisoned all black Tulsans not already interned. Over 6,000 people were held at the convention hall and fairgrounds, some for as long as 8 days. 24 hours after the violence erupted, it ceased. In the wake of the violence, 35 city blocks laid in charred ruins. More than 800 people were treated for injuries, and contemporary reports of deaths began at 36. Historians now believe as many as 300 people may have died. That number has gone up because they found 400 more bodies from that period recently, like within the last couple of years. Do you know what it was that spurred all this off other than abject racism? And I'm going to use an older term, Peckerwoods from the South moving into Oklahoma. That's right. I said it, Peckerwoods, and I'll say it again.
I've never heard that term before.
It's an old term. Actually, in
Yeah.
1921, it would have been used a lot.
Okay.
It's cracker. That's the old term for cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say it. A bunch of Peckerwoods, that's a bunch of racist, clan living white dudes, came into the town and started starting trouble. And this one lady yelled, he accosted me. And to all accounts, they got into the elevator together, and there were other people on the elevator. The lady went up. He said, "Excuse me." She got off, and that's where this came about. One kid said, "Excuse me," to this full grown ass woman, and she freaked out. And so they took that as an opportunity to destroy the entire section of town. And Oral Roberts University now sits on part of Greenwood. Where this district is now part of Oral Roberts University. I think it was a land grab.
That's been a theory for a long time.
Dude, they took an airplane and were dropping bombs out of it. Took a crop duster, took off, it had little grenades, they were just dropping them out.
This part of American history, as I'd said earlier, has been very well hidden,
Yes.
not talked about.
No.
It didn't really come into focus until the late 90s, almost the turn of the century,
Hmm.
when a group started protesting the state legislature and saying, this needs to be taught. This needs
Yeah.
to be talked about. I understand this is a dark period in our history, but it needs to be talked about. It wasn't until somewhere in the last 20 years, if I recall correctly, that Oklahoma schools were required to teach about it. And it's only been within maybe the last 10 years that it's officially been become has become a part of Oklahoma school curriculum. Um, to be talked about. And that's an important point I want to make that I've said before throughout my life, and I may have said it on the show, but I know I've said it in my personal life, is it doesn't matter what happened in history. It doesn't matter who did what and who did what to who. And when it happened, what's important is that we teach what happened and we learn our lesson from it. Because if you don't, history will repeat itself. So I think especially with the Tulsa Massacre, that's one of those things. It's important to teach it regardless of what side was on the right, what side was on the wrong. It's very important to teach it so that we don't make the same mistake again.
Sure.
Because it can happen again. It can and will happen again if we
Sure,
don't talk about
sure,
it.
sure. Absolutely, absolutely it can. And I'm sorry, Zig, I didn't mean to interrupt you on that.
No, no, you're good. You're good. No, I'm with you. I get so again, as you said at the top of the segment, I get real uncomfortable about this sort of stuff, because it makes me angry and sad. Um, I'm not so much angry. Well, I am angry and sad that it happened. It happened 100 years ago. You
Right.
know, um, I'm angry and sad is that people want to cover it up. My question is, why do they want to cover it up? Is it because they're embarrassed of grandpa?
Most
No,
likely,
I don't think so.
I
I think
think
it's
that's
because
a
they
part.
stole their land.
I think the embarrassment of their ancestors is a part of it. There's
Yeah.
a big cover up because once we got further along in the 20th century, this was something that was embarrassing to people that it
Hmm.
happened. Embarrassed that their own ancestors took part in this.
Hmm.
There are German people to this day that
Hmm.
are embarrassed that World War II happened. They're embarrassed that their country did what they did.
Yeah.
There are some that aren't. And there are some on the
Those are the
Oklahoma.
ones you got to teach the story about because those are the ones you got to watch out for.
Well, and you have to be careful, the same is going to fall through into Oklahoma today. You've got people who are embarrassed that it happened in their history, and then you have people who are not. They're
Hmm.
not embarrassed at all, and they're glad it happened. And you've got both sides of those coin, of that coin out there. I don't think it was taught for the longest time because it was an embarrassment. I don't think it was taught for a long time because there were I think there was enough of a popular opinion out there to say it didn't really happen.
Hmm.
You see, I go back to Germany. There are people to this day that say the Holocaust in Germany never happened, that it was all made up. You've got the same people that say we never made it to the moon.
Yeah,
The same people that say the Earth is not round, it's flat.
it's flat.
Um, you know,
Yeah, I've noticed there's a lot of anti-Semitism in a lot of the conspiracy theories, which I don't understand. It's like, whoa, what? Why are you anti-Judaism and your big proponent is the planet is flat?
oh no, no,
Why? Why do those two things connect?
I understand the why, and that's coming up in a couple of episodes.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
the why is because the information superhighway, the internet, is so huge. You are very easily able to capture the attention of an audience and get airplay quicker than you ever could before. You can get somebody's ear quicker than you ever could before. And once you do and get those bandwagoners that jump on top of your opinion, you can create a following very quickly. You can create a following very quickly to your ideals, and you can suddenly connect to all these people across the world that are suddenly like, yeah, that's what I've believed all this time. I didn't know somebody else thought that way. You've got Reddit, where Reddit is rampant with this.
Oh
Reddit is
yeah.
rampant with
I
people with
don't even, dude, I don't
bandwagoners
even
that
look at
jump on things.
the only thing I look at Reddit anymore is basically our posts, and there's a something from the city of Dallas. That's all I look at Reddit for.
Well, there's good and bad with it. I have to use it on my personal computer. You can't use it for work, but
Yeah,
I use Reddit for technical support because I will find a lot of things for technical support on Reddit,
yeah.
because it's so
That's what
rampant.
Reddit
But
started out as.
yeah, but that's the answer to the why it's suddenly coming up and why the people are saying it is because you've got easy access to the entire world to get people on your side that are very like-minded. We've got what's the total count in the world right now? Is it 7 billion?
7.5. It's almost
Se
8.
7.5 billion? Think about that. When you think about that number, here's how big a billion is, because a lot of people don't realize just how big a billion is. It takes you 37.1 years or 31.7, whichever that is, to live a billion seconds. That's how large that number is.
Yeah, and a million seconds is like a week.
Yeah, a billion is a massive, massive number. Massive. Look that up. It's like 31.7 years before you've lived a billion seconds.
Jeez.
Um, so
That's a lot of people.
think of that times seven. That's how many people there are in this world. And if you can get 1% of that behind you
It
to
doesn't even a
wrap,
full percent. A percent of a percent.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a lot of people.
right. You get the and suddenly you have a movement. You have a movement of people who are following you. And then there's other people that will follow just because they need something to follow. This is how cults come about.
Yeah.
Um, which I cover quite a bit.
He covers cults.
Yes,
He
yeah.
covers cults, so I don't have to.
And it's the same thing. With cults, it's the people that are like, you're shunned by society or you're shunned by this people. Come to us, come to me, because I will accept you for who you are and I will make you greater than you have ever felt before. Make you feel greater than you've ever felt before. And so that's where you get with something like this. This is something that was buried for a very long time because people were embarrassed about it. People
Mhm.
didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to believe it really happened, or didn't want to believe it happened the way it did, or didn't want people to think that the people that were involved in it were really involved or that they really did it. But
It was
now that,
1921. We have film and pictures.
yeah, but you've
We
got
have
people
film and
now,
pictures.
you have people now who are willing to teach it. You have people now who are willing to tell the story as it is and be okay with the fact that, yeah, it really happened. It really sucked. And this
Mhm.
was terrible, a horrific tragedy,
Mhm.
but it needs to be talked about.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And honestly, rec recomp recompense needs to be addressed because they, for whatever reason, yeah, yes, they robbed them of their lives.
I'm gonna give you
Hey,
$10. I'm gonna give you $10 for that word, by the way.
recompense.
Yeah.
They stole their shit, and these people deserve at least that shit back and their descendants because it was their shit. Um, Regardless of anything else, they stole it, and it needs to be paid back because they just up and burned all their houses down, destroyed all their businesses, paved over it, and started building other shit in its place, like with no deed. I still don't know how they got away with it, other than I guess the local judges were in on it.
There's a theory on that. There's a theory
Yeah.
that local law enforcement and judges were in on it. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of theories that surround that.
A lot
Um,
of Southern Peckerwoods. I'll keep saying it. I'm bringing it
Um,
back.
wow. Wow.
Oh, heck of wood.
Um, uh, boy, you threw me there. Threw my train of thought, completely derailed me.
Sorry, babe.
Um, I don't know that that recompense will ever happen.
No,
Um, it's never happened for the Civil War,
no,
for the slaves that were promised their 40 acres and a mule.
yeah.
That's never come to full fruition. There's never been any we to the Indians what we did
Oh God. Yeah.
to the Indian nations, the various Indian nations. There's been no recompense for that either. Um, so I don't think there will ever be any reparations made for that. But what has to happen, and I've kind of gone circular in my argument here. What has to happen is we have to keep talking about this
Yes.
stuff. We have to
Oh,
keep it out there.
yeah, at the very least.
Yeah,
Don't hide it
right,
because it's going to come out. Again, it was 1921. We have film and pictures of it happening.
right.
Silent because, back then, yes, they had recording equipment in 1921, but it was separate from the camera. So they're all silent films, even though it was after talkies came out.
You know what they could do is they could put a good instrumental to those.
Oh Lord.
Yes, they could. Yes, they could. You looped that back.
I'm a full circle back to the top of the show.
You sexy motherfucker, you. But that is
Awesome.
about it for our nerdery or our murdery. Sorry. And our guest host.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Mike.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And Zig, thank you for that story. Like I said, I appreciate you telling that story because again, that's one that needs to be told. As are a lot of the stories that I tell. I tell them because they need to be told. Um, uh, it, get that information out there. It's not it is for entertainment, but it's not all solely for entertainment. It's to get that information out there, get people aware of this kind of stuff. I like to tell the stories about the missing people because those are stories that need to keep being repeated and repeated and repeated. Um, you've got some people in this day and age, especially that have disappeared. How in the world did they disappear and they've never been seen again? That one
Right.
just boggles my mind when they haven't found a body ever. How does somebody just disappear? I've told so many of those stories, and it's just phenomenal. But no, Zig, thank you very much. I appreciate you telling these kind of stories. I really do. I really do.
Thank you, sir.
Um, and I do thank Mike again for joining us. Mike has been such a good friend to us. We love his show. Um, I I often have to listen to Mike's show multiple times because I'll sometimes boot it on while I'm working, and I'll get really involved in what I was doing, and then I suddenly hear something that Mike or Steven have said. I'm like, wait, what? Okay, now I got to back up.
Nice. Thank you. Well,
You
thanks
bet.
for having me on. I got to geek out about football, and
Yes.
two, I got to geek out about music, and Steven won't let me do that on our show. So,
Aw. Babe, you can come geek out anytime. We got a new one coming up here about some albums. You should listen to them. They're in the playlist.
okay.
Uh, yes, we do, and it's funny. So, because Zig completely forgot that we've already done the DC indie scene. In the DC indie scene, which is a two-parter, and I appreciate the research Dig does on this kind of stuff. It is not my style of music, and there was one song in particular. I don't even remember which one it was now, but in my notes that I kept off to the side, I put in there, and I Steven skipped through this song.
Nice. I love
He
it.
did.
I
Mike's
love it.
And
counterpart on,
we had to explain what
yes,
Steven skipping was.
yes, I explained it at our show.
Yeah.
So Steven got some traction on the show on that one. We've had Steven on before as well, but Mike likes to join us from time to time when we
Yes,
have
I
a
do.
particular topic that interests him. So do give them a listen. They are at twogeeksandamicrophone.com. Two Geeks and a Microphone you can find on most of your podcast platforms. I'll let Mike go ahead and give his stab for his show.
Yeah. It's Two Geeks and a Microphone, like Jeff said, that's the number two, GEEKS.
Oh,
Dot
senor, it
com.
is the letter to.
It's
Yeah,
a
the
letter
Sorry.
letter
to.
two. The letter two.
It's the
dot
letter
com.
to.
And you can go there and you can find us and get any information for us from us. Also, Steven normally does this stuff. So also go to Facebook, give us a like on Facebook, and follow us over on YouTube. We're gonna give the bell a tickle, and you'll know every time we go live.
And if you like what you hear on their show, if you get to the end of their show and have nothing else to listen to, also subscribe to their Ko-fi. You can get some extra stuff on there. It's awesome. They have had some good stuff on there as well, as well as some really fun stuff on their Ko-fi page. So
Yeah, you get to hear a preview of our new Halloween
yes,
game that we just premiered actually today.
yeah.
Or no,
So that came out,
yesterday.
and I got my email because I am a Ko-fi subscriber, and I got my
This was
email.
great.
I got my email that they had a song out there. So I'm like, oh, cool. And I clicked on the link, and it said, "You need permission for this." And I just sent them a message. I said, "Let me in."
I thought it was damn it, let me.
Damn it,
May have
let me
been. May
in.
have been. Good
That
stuff
I'm
there.
gonna blame that one on Steven. That's his fault.
That's awesome. So again, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you joining
Thanks,
us.
boss.
Thank
Um,
you for having me.
that is the end of our recording week. It takes, you can find more about us on nerderymurder.com. That's our hub. That's our website where you can find everything about us. You'll find pictures from this episode as well as videos, links from what we've talked about, and links to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
That's right. And in this episode, every single one of those link songs are in there, as well as the ones we've talked about uh after Geoffrey's list. So they're all
I do believe that you named that video Jeffrey's most awesome top 10 list ever.
top 10 rock instrumentals. No, but I can rename it that
No,
if you
no,
want.
no, it's fine. It's fine. On our website, you could also find the link to our merchandise page, which if you wish to show off your nerdery murdery fandom, please do consider something from there. That, along with the link to our Patreon, where if you wish to become a patron, help donate to the costs that are associated with going this that go on with keeping the show on the air. It does cost to keep us uploaded and website and all the storage of everything. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, as Mike can tell you, that goes into keeping a podcast. It's not cheap. So we do ask that anybody that wants to be a fan to consider becoming a patron. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. And last but not least, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review wherever you can. It really helps us and helps others find the content that we may be talking about. So with that, for this week, I have been Geoffrey with your nerdery.
I've been Mike with Two Geeks and a Microphone.
And I'm Zig with your murdery.
Cue the music.
Perfect.